I'm working on my thesis right now. I'm a graduate student here at NSU, and I'm working on my thesis. But when I heard that this was the conference topic, that it was paranormal, I wanted to talk about this because I'm a nerd for ghost shows and all sorts of stuff like that. Hey, Dr. Rasmussen. And so this presentation is going to be, it couldn't possibly be more dramatically different from the last one. And I'm really grateful that it came out the way it is because I think it's funny. So hopefully this will be, I think in the restaurant industry, hopefully this will be what I think they call, and someone correct me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, an amuse-bouche?
Amuse-bouche, you
yes.
got it.
So we're gonna have an amuse-bouche about some stories I've been told. I'm gonna walk around, I'm sorry. It's just weird for me to be behind the podium. Anyway, so I spent about 10 or 15 years of my life spending most of my free time driving around Northwest Louisiana in my old Altima and now my Mazda 3, just pulling off the side of the road wherever I saw a cool looking little restaurant and eating and trying to meet people. I don't know why I really did this. I never really considered myself a foodie. I like restaurants. I collect like glassware from bygone restaurants and I covet it. There's something about a restaurant that seems to me like uniquely, what's that German word that means the complete text? Someone in this room, it's like the gestalten something, but it means like it encompasses all sorts of different work. And it's under one, between two covers or under one roof. And I think, what is it?
A gestalt.
Yes, I feel like a restaurant has a uniquely comprehensive world of things you've got to manage, from people to art, the art of food, the cooking, the logistics. It's like this, you have to be able to do it all, and I'm fascinated by people who can. So I'm going to fly through here, but I want to tell you just quickly about myself. I spent 10 years in Louisiana tourism marketing and left that career during the pandemic. It just didn't seem like my morals fit with the industry's morals anymore. 9 years as a freelance writer for some magazines I'm so proud to be associated with, including Gravy, the magazine of the Southern Foodways Alliance, which I get to write for once in a while, and a huge honor. I've been in the Southern Foodways for 5 years. I blog at stuffedandbusted.com if you'd like to read more things I've written. I'm in the thesis stage, and I'm going to be a dad in March of next year. So I'm really, that's me in a nutshell. One of the people that I'm going to be talking to you about in this presentation is Ernestine Moody, whose incredible restaurant, Moody's Cafe, unfortunately closed during the pandemic, like so many. But I wanted to show you her business card, because if you don't take anything else away from my presentation today, you got to see Ernestine Moody's business card. She printed her 8 infallible rules on the back of her business card, and these are them. Keep your heart clean, keep your mind free from worry. Keep your body in condition. I love that she doesn't specify which condition. Just keep it in a condition. Keep out of other people's affairs, keep on the job, keep your temper, keep your promises, keep cool. I love Ernestine and I love her business card, and I wanted to share it with y'all. Moody's Cafe is an incredibly important place in Minden, Louisiana, that if I were given the ability to place a historical marker completely at my choosing, it would be at Moody's Cafe. It was built as a railroad hotel because there was nowhere for and this is all, by the way, I'm a folklore student right now. So like I'm learning to write down and record and think about things that people tell me, but I'm not arguing with them and I'm not telling them I don't believe them. So this is knowledge that was passed to me by Ernestine Moody. This place that you're looking at, this really unique looking structure, was built by Alma and Maddie Moody, her grandparents. Alma is the man, an African-American guy, but with a wonderful Spanish first name that makes me wonder. But Alma built this building with his bare hands, and he had no training in construction, plumbing, any of that. It took him 3 years. There was nowhere for people who were building the railroad to sleep within city limits of Minden. They were Chinese, I was told, and there was nowhere for them to be put up. They were Chinese and African American, and there were no black-owned hotels at that time. So Alma built one out of whatever he could buy at the time. That's why it took 3 years. He'd buy some wood. Well, this looks like a room. He'd buy some stones. This looks like a wall. And it was good, y'all. This place was so good. It was the only North Louisiana restaurant at all listed in Dr. Jane and Michael Stern's Road Food, which is one of the essential compendiums of foodie lore. They called it one of the South's best meat and threes. That's Dr. Michael Stern's words, not mine. Crazy. The way the menu was presented is folkloric AF, if I may say so. And I'm about to show it to you. But the reason it's in this presentation is because of her heavenly cornbread. This is Miss Ernestine Moody working in her kitchen. That kitchen was extremely tiny and extremely, extremely hot. I spent some time in that kitchen with Ernestine Moody to gather this story. I was so pleased to just basically get to hang out with her for a day. But the way she did her menu, she printed murals, like these sticker type murals. And I don't know how they were mounted, because this was this way for years and years and years. But she printed everything she might cook on the wall. And then that day when she came in, she put stickers, green felt stickers by anything she was going to be serving. So like, she never had to print menus or anything like that. The walls were just covered in things that she might be selling you that day. Types of pie, drinks. I just thought it was so cool. And you see, she sold ads on the wall. You know, I mean, she was awesome. But this is her cornbread, and it has a reputation for being really, really good cornbread. She makes two kinds of cornbread, hot water and this, which she calls her pan bread or cornbread. She talked to me also about spoon bread, but I don't know that I understand spoon bread yet, and I don't know that she served it. She just talked to me about it.
Isn't it like hot water cornbread? Like
Yeah.
you span it out and
Right.
throw it in the boiling water, and then you can.
I didn't know if it was that or if it was almost like a soft bread that you served your
Yeah,
with a
I
spoon.
think I've seen it before. It's shaped
You
like
got a
a spoon.
spoonful of the batter in the grease.
See, that's why we are collectively a gathering. But so her cornbread, she told me that she had never made cornbread before she took over the restaurant from her father in 1981. And that people were so cruel to her when she took over the restaurant because they hated the thing. They wanted it to be just like it was before her dad died, and it couldn't be. It just can't be. Things change. And people were especially critical of her cornbread. And she said that this guy, Jesus, came to her and taught her how in the kitchen. She told me, this is verbatim from my notes that day. I didn't cook cornbread well before this. I tried cooking that, and it was just an absolute mess. I almost cried. I sat out in the dining room one day, and I said, Lord, please, I know you can do it. Give me a recipe so that I can cook some cornbread that these folks will enjoy. And when I got ready to get my bowl and make my bread the next morning, it all just fell in place. He told me what to do. That's why I call it my heavenly cornbread. So she went into more detail than this in my notes, but she literally said that, like, she walked into the kitchen that morning. This is the day after she had her kind of panic attack about the cornbread, and she just went to, for example, a cabinet and opened it. And her hand just went up and took a bowl. And she went to the refrigerator and took out a bunch of eggs and a bunch of this and a bunch of that. Like, she felt like she was in a fugue state. And I thought that was so beautiful, the idea of Christ intervening in someone's cornbread recipe. And I'm not mocking her, by the way. I think this is awesome. I think this is the kind of God I would like to relate to, one that will do this kind of thing to turn people's lives around. This is funny, but literally right down the street, okay? So Dr. Rasmussen's gears will start turning as we think about geographical proximity of this story happening twice in the same neighborhood. But right down the street from Moody's, Margie Emerson sells these tiny little tamales that come, they're super spicy, they're super delicious. I think they're really like legitimately Delta style. And I don't know that Miss Emerson would know or care, but like every Delta style tamale I've had has been tiny and hot, and delicious. And that's exactly what Margie Emerson's tamales are like. There's like 100 of them in this pot right here. They're super tiny, super delicious. You buy them frozen from her. She sells them out of her home and has been selling them out of her home since 1977. which is a long time to essentially operate a black market business in a small town. So, I mean, for me, what I read into this is like, you know, the whoever the restaurant inspectors are and whoever the cops are or whoever who police this kind of thing, they've got to know that she's got a tamale business out of a private home since '77. And I think they probably just know the tamales are good and they think, man, we're not gonna take that away. We wanna eat those tamales because they are great. Miss Margie Emerson hands out a copy of her version of this story with every order of tamales she sells. And she says that she prayed for a better living. She was miserable, poor, working in a store somewhere and being unappreciated and getting terrible hours and no money. And she prayed just for a new career and that God showed her in a dream how to make tamales. She says she had no interest in tamales, had never had one or made one before she started preparing them commercially. And this, by the way, was written by her daughter, not me or anything like that. I photocopied about 1 million of them and used them as like a zine cover for my little travels when I drove around eating food all the time. But I find, this is gonna sound weird, but I reformatted this once as a poem and it really works. But I'm just gonna read it aloud because I like it. Emerson Tamales was established in 1977 by Margie Emerson. The recipe came from a prayer that she prayed for a better living. I love this. Don't let me get emotional, but God showed her in a dream and she went from God speaking to her. That was never a dream of hers. It was God's vision for her. She then took that vision from God and made that dream a reality. She had never seen anyone make tamales, but when she had the dream, she put it all together. The recipe is no copy, it's only hers. Her recipe is total secret, but I can say they're made with pure ground beef and a lot of love. And the idea that she prayed for help and that God said, finally, I have found someone to make really good tamales for the people of Minden, and he taught her to make great tamales, is beautiful to me. There's just something about it. And again, I'm not mocking these people. I believe they believe what they're saying, and I don't have any grounds upon which to argue that this didn't happen. Anyway, that's the text that I just read. I just love that God's vision of someone could be tamale master. I think that's great. Big O's is an interesting case. I'm trying to like position myself in case my fiance wants a picture of me doing like this. I believe that's performative, isn't it, Dr. Rasmussen? But Big O's is interesting because of all the stories I was told, Big O's was the one that, if I did want to laugh, I laughed the hardest internally at Otis's story. Really an excellent seafood fry place. And I think it was so good because he put tempura batter on the shrimp. Like it was a really good seafood place. But what it was famous for, was tartar sauce. People bought jars of his tartar sauce by the hundreds, he said, every month. And if I had mentioned Big O's in Shreveport or Bossier, people would go, oh, that tartar sauce, what's the deal with that tartar sauce? This is Mr. Big O, Otis Johnson. Unfortunately, he got suckered into renting a very expensive space from a developer who put like a mall in a kind of a weird place, and he didn't get good storefront signage, and it wrecked him financially. But he was standing in his last restaurant here, but Big O told me about his 40th birthday, and he said he was preparing for a fish fry that night, but he got sleepy at like 2 p.m. and he never takes naps during the day, and he felt like he was in this weird, he felt charmed, which is really interesting. He felt like a spell come over him or something. And he laid down to take a nap, and in his dream he saw himself grocery shopping from behind and above. And he would notice and take note that he went to the fresh vegetables section and got dill, or he went to the condiment section and got like whole grain mustard. And when he woke up, he said he grabbed the nearest piece of paper and wrote it all down. He says, I took a nap about 2 p.m. I don't normally take naps. I had a dream in my dream, I saw myself in the grocery store shopping for the ingredients to make tartar sauce, and I had never made tartar sauce in my life. I woke up and said, I'm making my own tartar sauce today. I wrote all of the ingredients I'd seen in the dream, and I went to the store. But he feels that he was divinely inspired to create his recipe for tartar sauce, which really does look and taste different from anything I would call tartar sauce. A lot of my friends call this a remoulade, but Big O says it's a tartar sauce, so I say it's tartar sauce. And he says that it just came to him in a dream, that the recipe for this sauce, which made him fabulously popular and wealthy for a while, came to him in a dream. This, for me, in the years, in the decade or so that I spent, like, just driving around eating and meeting people because I wanted to, because I felt like that was my lane in life. I didn't know I was doing folklore. I didn't know I was doing field research. And I'm only just now getting to go back and see some of the things I did as folklore. And this is one of the big ones. Like, this is one of the things I'd really like to do more research on. I'd like to do more research on obviously not haunted restaurants, because that's a whole silly book that would probably sell 1 million copies. But divine inspiration in the kitchen. I'd really like to write about divine inspiration in the kitchen. And I think it's folklore because the narratives are so similar. Sometimes they're in the same neighborhood. God is intervening in a very real way in their culinary enterprise, which is super interesting, that idea. There's always a theme of uplift, like things weren't working. I was in this crappy job, I prayed to God, He taught me how to make tamales. Or things were going downhill at the restaurant, my customers were leaving because I couldn't make cornbread, and Jesus Christ sent me the knowledge of how to make cornbread. They are always commercial enterprises, which is a real sticky wicket in this whole thing. It's like, I ask myself now, were they just telling me a good story to try to get it out there to make their restaurant more popular or something? But I didn't feel that way about any of these folks. They felt like they were telling me what really happened to them. I think it's so funny. I told Dr. Rasmussen this earlier today, but I'm just learning, like, for example, the vocabulary of field work. And I think what these are is memorites. They are personal experience narratives with a spiritual or a paranormal component. And they're so meme-like. When I think, for example, about the Moody's Cafe story and the Emerson Tamale story, and that they happen in the same community, I really have to wonder how it moved. How did it move? How did it go from Moody's to Emerson? Or how does it move around the community at large? Like, what purpose does this kind of narrative that says, I didn't come up with this great recipe, Jesus did, what purpose does it serve? That's what I keep asking myself. What purpose does it serve? And that's sort of where I'm at. I probably talked really fast. I don't even know how long I was talking, so.
1827.
Thank you. But after my thesis, I'm writing a thesis right now about stuffed shrimp in Shreveport, which I think is, to me, no kidding, the great untold food story of Louisiana.
Corn dogs.
They're corn, thank you, she just said it. They look like corn dogs.
Yeah.
Stuffed shrimp in Shreveport are different from anywhere else in America. And I can document the bejesus out of it because I've got all the people who cook them in my cell phone, and I'm ready to do this. I'm working on the thesis right now. But after my thesis, I really would like to write about religion and cooking and divine inspiration and commercial kitchens, because I hear these stories over and over. God did this and God did that. And it's like, I wonder, forgive me for being a little bit, I wouldn't normally say this if I wasn't in a room with a lot of people who I know are in folklore and the arts, but I wonder what keeps them from taking credit for their incredible achievements. That's really what I'm curious about. So that's what I've got. Yes. Can I take questions? I don't know.
We're going to take questions after.
After, all right. So after, see y'all after the next presentation. Get my mug off the screen real quick.
Well, I'm gonna follow up this with a boring paper. So.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. I'm okay.